In the summer of 1518, in a small city in France, people started dancing in the street. That sounds fine. It wasn't, because they couldn't stop. They danced for days, then weeks. They danced until their feet bled, until their bodies gave out, until some of them dropped dead. And nobody, not the doctors, not the priests, not the government, could explain why. To this day, no one has a definitive answer. Scientists, historians, and psychologists have been debating it for 500 years, and the more you dig into the details, the stranger it gets. To understand what happened, you need to understand what life in Strasbourg was like in 1518, and the short answer is absolutely terrible. The years leading up to the dancing plague had been catastrophic. 3 consecutive failed harvests meant widespread famine. People were starving in the streets. Then came floods. Then came syphilis, a disease nobody had ever seen before, spreading fast and killing people in horrifying ways. Then the bubonic plague came back for another visit. On top of all that, 1517 was officially recorded in local chronicles as a bad year, which, given everything I just described, tells you how much of an understatement that was. By mid-1518, shelters, orphanages, and hospitals were overflowing. People genuinely believed God was punishing them. The stress was so extreme that historians now believe it literally broke people's minds. Then, on July 14, 1518, a woman named Frau Trophea walked out of her home onto the narrow cobblestone street outside and started dancing, alone, in silence, no music, no celebration, just dancing, with a blank, vacant expression on her face. Her husband begged her to stop. She couldn't or wouldn't. She kept going until she collapsed from exhaustion. Then she got up the next morning and started again. Same blank expression, same uncontrollable movements. Day after day, on bloody, swollen feet, Frau Trophea danced. By the end of the first week, 30 people had joined her. Within a month, the number had grown to somewhere between 50 and 400 people, all dancing in the streets of Strasbourg, seemingly unable to stop, crying out for help while their bodies moved without their permission. Now here's where it gets genuinely insane, because the city authorities looked at this situation, hundreds of people dancing against their will, collapsing from exhaustion, some dying, and came up with a solution. And their solution was more dancing. Local physicians declared that the dancing was caused by overheated blood, basically a fever. And since it was a fever, the cure was to let it run its course, dance it out, sweat it out. The more they danced, the faster they'd recover. That was the official medical advice in 1518. So the city council cleared out guild halls to give the dancers more space. They hired professional musicians, pipers, drummers, and horn players to provide music around the clock. They even brought in professional dancers to keep the afflicted company and stop them from falling. They basically threw a party for people who were dying. Turns out, giving 400 panicking people a live band and an audience made things significantly worse. More people joined. The dancing spread. People who came just to watch started dancing themselves. The death toll climbed. When the more dancing approach failed spectacularly, the city tried the opposite. They banned music. They banned public dancing entirely. Then they turned to the church, because by now people had a new theory for what was happening. Saint Vitus was punishing them. Saint Vitus was a Catholic martyr believed to have the power to curse sinners with uncontrollable dancing as divine punishment. And in a city already convinced God hated them, this theory caught on fast. The dancers were sinners being punished.
The only cure was absolution. So the city organized a strange ritual. The afflicted dancers were given red shoes, specifically red shoes sprinkled with holy water with crosses painted on the tops and soles. They had to hold small crosses in their hands. Priests performed Latin incantations over them, and then they were transported, still dancing, up a mountain to the shrine of Saint Vitus to pray for forgiveness. And here's the plot twist. It worked, or at least something worked. By September 1518, about 2 months after it all started, the dancing plague began to fade. The remaining dancers were led to the mountaintop chapel, performed the ritual, and gradually stopped. The plague ended as mysteriously as it began. So what actually happened? Scientists and historians have been fighting over this for centuries. Here are the main theories. Theory 1. Ergot poisoning. Ergot is a toxic fungus that grows on damp rye, the grain used to make bread. Ergot causes convulsions, hallucinations, and involuntary muscle spasms. Given the failed harvests and desperate food conditions, people may have been eating contaminated bread without knowing it. Theory 2. Religious cult. Some historians believe the dancers were members of a heretical sect, performing ritual dances to attract divine favor. The blank expressions, the trance-like state, the refusal to stop, it could have been voluntary religious ecstasy that looked like compulsion from the outside. Theory 3, and this is the most widely accepted one today, mass psychogenic illness, also called mass hysteria. Under extreme stress, the human brain can generate real physical symptoms with no physical cause. The famine, the plague, the floods, the syphilis, the fear of divine punishment, it all built up until people's minds literally snapped. The first dancer triggered something in others. The belief spread like a virus, and once you believed you were cursed by Saint Vitus, you were. In other words, the people of Strasbourg were so broken by suffering that their minds created a physical illness out of pure terror. They literally danced because they believed they had to, and that belief was contagious. And here's what makes the story even wilder. This wasn't the first time it happened, not even close. Similar dancing plagues had broken out across Europe since at least 1374. In that year, thousands of people danced through the streets of cities along the Rhine River. It spread from town to town like an infection. Some accounts describe people dancing until they literally collapsed dead in the street. There were at least 10 major outbreaks between 1374 and 1518. All of them happened in the same region, along the Rhine and Moselle rivers in Central Europe. All of them happened during periods of extreme crisis, and then, after 1518, they stopped, almost completely. The dancing plague of 1518 was the last major one ever recorded in Europe. Nobody truly knows what happened in Strasbourg in the summer of 1518. What we know is that hundreds of people danced against their will, in fear and agony, for 2 months straight. That some of them died, that every attempt to stop it made it worse, and that when it finally ended, it just ended. No explanation, no cure. It stopped as suddenly as it began. The dancing plague of 1518 is one of history's most documented mysteries. Physician notes, city council records, cathedral sermons, all of it confirmed it happened. None of it explained why. 500 years later, we still don't have a definitive answer. So here's my question for you. Which theory do you think is closest to the truth? Mass hysteria? Ergot poisoning? Something else entirely? Let me know in the comments.